Hi friends, we're back with another one of our spotlights on storytelling. Tonight's story is going to be shared by Emily, one of our teen storytellers, part of our Them troupe, Teen Helping to Evolve the Magic of Storytelling. Emily has been with our troupe from the very beginning and she has gained some wonderful storytelling skills. So sit back and enjoy two Disagreeable Ducks. And don't forget, we are watching live with you tonight, and you can go ahead and say hello in the comments so that Emily knows that you're here listening with her. And sit back and enjoy a wonderful story. Thanks, guys. And here's Emily.
Hi, everyone. It's Emily from the Them Storytelling Troupe. And I'm going to be telling you my story called The Two Disagreeable Ducks. I hope you enjoy! Once upon a time, in a wild woods, there lived two disagreeable ducks. Mr. and Mrs. Breadcrumb always argued, and it was starting to get on the animals' nerves. So they went to the wise beaver for help. They said, "Wise beaver, we cannot do our daily things because the breadcrumbs keep arguing." Well, the wise beaver thought about this for a minute. Thought. And he came up with an idea. He said, "Why don't you all share your solutions for arguing with the breadcrumbs? One of those is bound to work." The squirrels decided to go talk to the breadcrumbs first. They went up to the breadcrumb's nest where Mr. and Mrs. Breadcrumb were arguing about sticks. And the squirrel said, "Excuse us, Mr. and Mrs. Breadcrumb. We couldn't help but overhear that you were arguing, and we have a solution for that." Well, Mr. and Mrs. Breadcrumb leaned in to listen. "Why don't you prepare for winter? We squirrels are always too busy with that to argue." Mr. and Mrs. Breadcrumb agreed, just to be polite, and they worked on their plan to fly south for the winter. "I want to go to South America for the winter." "Well, I want to go to South Africa instead." "I don't like your latitude." And once again, the woods were filled with the sound of annoyed quacks. Quack, quack, quack! Quack, quack, quack! After the squirrel's plan had failed, the birds stepped up. They flew to the breadcrumb's nest where Mr. and Mrs. Breadcrumb were still arguing about sticks. And the birds said, "Excuse us, Mr. and Mrs. Breadcrumb. We couldn't help but overhear that you were arguing, and we have a solution for that." Well, the breadcrumbs leaned in again and listened. "Well, we suggest that you take a nice swim. We heard that the pond over there is quite lovely this time of year." The breadcrumbs agreed once again, just to be polite, and they flew over to the pond and they got settled and started swimming. Well, as they were swimming, "My feet are too cold." "Oh, hush now, this water's fine." And once again, the sound of annoyed quacks filled the forest. Quack, 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 quack! Quack, quack, quack! Oh, dear. Well, after the bird's plan had failed, the deer came in. They trotted over to the breadcrumb's nest, and where Mr. and Mrs. Breadcrumb were still arguing about sticks. They said, "Mr. and Mrs. Breadcrumb, excuse us, but we couldn't help but overhear that you were arguing, and we have a solution for that." The breadcrumbs leaned in once more to listen to another idea. "Maybe you should try eating before talking. We heard that talking on an empty stomach often leads to arguments." The breadcrumbs were getting tired of being polite, but they decided to do this one last idea. They flew over to a nearby field, and Mrs. Breadcrumb had found some berries to eat. And she offered them to Mr. Breadcrumb when she looked over in horror and saw that Mr. Breadcrumb was eating, well, breadcrumbs! No, 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 no! Mrs. Breadcrumb shouted in horror. I heard that breadcrumbs are terribly bad for ducks. Well, I heard that breadcrumbs are wonderful for ducks. So eat your berries and leave my bread out of this. And once again, the forest was filled with the sound of annoyed quacks. Quack! Quack, quack, quack! Quack! Quack, quack, quack! All of the animals' plans had failed, and they turned to the wise beaver. Wise beaver, do you have a plan that could work? We have run out of ideas. For a while, the wise beaver thought. He thought. And he came up with an idea. Then he walked over to the breadcrumb's nest, and where Mr. and Mrs. Breadcrumb were arguing about logs. And he said, "Excuse me, Mr. and Mrs. Breadcrumb, I couldn't help but overhear that you two were arguing, and, well, I have a solution for that." The breadcrumbs looked at him warily. They leaned in to listen. "Why don't you two just not argue?" the wise beaver said, and walked back to his dam. Mr. and Mrs. Breadcrumb looked at each other. "We've never tried not arguing before. That sounds lovely." "I agree," Mr. Breadcrumb said. And for once, the sound of the woods was peaceful. For the two disagreeable ducks were disagreeable no more. The end. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. See you next time. Bye.